Yes, it's snowing out. Going to have a fairly good-sized storm today. And what's nice is the bird feeders are all filled, so they'll have plenty to eat during the storm, and then it's going to get Arctic chill cold down to 0, so we're prepared as much as we can be.
Hello, welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thank you very much for joining me in my exploration of this amazing, incredible, wide world of pens that we are so fortunate to be able to enjoy. And one rotating in front of you is a recent one, well, not recent for many people, but recent for me. It's a Jihnao 9019, the big pen, in this stealthy black finish. Not only did they use translucent black resin for the barrel and cap, but they also plated all the metal bits in a nice dark plating. And it just looks good, I have to admit. I really, really like the way the pen looks. And it's reasonably priced. I got this one on Etsy. You can find it in many, many places. It's pretty well available, unlike some other pens, stabilized wood pens, that seem to come and go very, very quickly. So I enjoy showing you a pen that is extremely affordable, at least in today's market, and one in which I think is a good writer. This one has a different nib in it, so we're going to look at that, and we're going to let Mr. Cat come around and say hi. Let's dive in. I now have more light coming in, so we'll get to see this under a lot of lumens, but doesn't really change that stealthy look. We have Jihnao in the cap, and we have it also in the cap band, which I think you can see, in 9019 dado. So that's excellent. The pen feels nice. No seams, no nothing. Injection molding has now become quite well done in a lot of Chinese pens. The cap comes off in 2.5 turns. That hasn't changed. And we'll see a nice two-tone nib that I put in there. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And it's a stub ground by Bobby. So I'm interested to see how well it writes. I know the Zveen C2000 stub nib was excellent, but this one is different, I think. No sense in going over all the little details. I'll show you the inside of the pen a little bit later. It fits great in the hand. It feels good in the hand. I like that size of that section. You don't feel any, you feel the threads, but they're not intrusive. You can hold this pen anywhere, but with that big number 8 nib, that is a perfect position for me. And it's not the best posting pen, but it does post. It does stay there. The cap doesn't weigh much, so it doesn't really change the balance. It is usable posted, unlike a lot of other pens, but that's the 9019. Let's get this puppy inked up and put that stub nib to work. So these are some of my 9019s, and you can see how the stealthy black one certainly stands out amongst these. I'm not aware of any models having silver-colored trim. They all seem to be gold-colored. Let me know if you know of a silver-colored version of these pens. You know, they come in extra fine, fine, and medium. This one has a heartbeat nib, which I really enjoy and love, and this one has a Bobby Flex nib and its eyedropper fill. The amazing range of colors here, and pricing also varies quite a bit. You can find some good deals, well under $10 US. You know, and keep in mind that AliExpress is sometimes known as the best place to shop, but they may not always have the lowest prices as we see in this listing. This pen is also very big. You can see it barely fits. They interact with each other on this corrugated pen tray. And if you have them in a pen case or a lot of other ways of carrying your pens, you may find that you can't put these together with other pens, they need more than one slot. They need to be in first class. So I really enjoy my 9019s much more than I thought. I thought they were a great pen, and they still are a great pen. And I really like the Stealth Edition, especially with the stub nib. But as we saw from this 1.1 stub, Bobby on Etsy, Chinese pen, I put a link in the description, has a lot of different nibs for you to choose from. Here's what that feather nib looks like on his listing. Here's the stub nib listed on Etsy. So if you want a little bit of a different writing variation, you can certainly go on Etsy, look up Chinese pen, and find some great nibs to increase your enjoyment of your 9019. Give it a try. Yes, I do take pens apart, primarily for a couple reasons. Number one, I like seeing the different bits and pieces and how they're made. And I always pull the nib and feed and assembly out to do a nice flushing, so it's going to work as well as it can with ink. And I think this stealthy look is great. I mean, it's done on every level. A nice O-ring there to seal up when you put the section, screw the section and barrel together. And like I said, I enjoy this. I think the 9019 is a beautiful design. I like the fact that they used a mostly transparent converter, so you don't see things reflecting through this translucent barrel. And I did a talk in my last video about the number 8 nib. This is the one that came with the pen. This is the one I'm going to put in to write with, because I wanted a different writing experience. There's a nice stub there, and I think that two-tone nib will look a little bit better. As we know, a dark nib would look even better, but nah, not a choice. So I got a number 8 nibs from Bobby, and this one was the one I almost considered putting in because it's an interesting design, but it's just a standard fine nib, so I wanted something with a little bit more writing character. I could have also put it in an architect nib, which I got, but that's for another time. We've gone into dark mode, suitable for a nice dark pen like this, because I wanted to show you the inside of the cap. They have a nice brass bolt there that holds in the clip. That's an upscale solution. Some of the earlier Chinese pens, the piston fillers, they had a screw there made out of steel that rusted pretty quickly, so it really detracted from the functionality and design of the pen. But as we can see, the Chinese pen makers continue to improve and make their pens better, and I think us pen reviewers have helped them do that. And there's a little legend there to seal up against the section. Nothing spectacular, but again, it's the little bits that make a pen. And as we can see, it is translucent. You get to see that LED go up and down in that plastic, injection molded plastic. But it's well done. You know, kind of like the injection molded plastic in the Platinum 3776. But a lot less money. So you know me, I can't resist a new ink. This is the third one of the Twinkle series from Birmingham Pen Company. And it does have some nice, kind of on the dark side, blue glitter in there. This is how it looks on Toma River paper. I just want to see how it works in the nib. So far I've been very, very happy with Galactic and Lightning. So let's see how Neutron Star does. I enjoy this stub nib. It's a sharper stub nib than we had on the Asvine C2000, so it gives a crisper line, and there's a little bit more variation between horizontal and vertical. It's not quite as wet, but it's still decently wet. And this Birmingham Pen Company Neutron Star ink is fairly nice. I like it. I think it works well in the pen. So part of the whole fun part about a stub nib is it just feels interesting on the paper. As I mentioned, this is a little sharper, a little bit more of an edge to it, but then that shows up in the way that the writing is a lot crisper than it was on the Asvine. Here's a side-by-side writing experiment that I did initially. So you can see how this is a much broader line than the Jihnao lays down, and this was a ground medium nib. So one would expect this pour like a 0.9 millimeter or 0.8 millimeter stub versus a 1.1, and this is a real clear 1.1. No skimping on this one like some other stub nibs. And again, you can see the difference in the amount of ink that it lays down, substantially more from the Asvine. So I talked about this flex nib that I got from Bobby in this eyedropper 9019, and he put a special feed in there to provide a sufficient ink flow for a nice, wet, flexible nib. And this nib works well. As you can see, it can lay down a fine line, but with a little bit of pressure. And as you can see, you can put too much pressure. We got to get that ink flow before we flex. And that's about as much as I would do it. But you can see a phenomenal amount of ink flow has come out of this. This is very typical of all flex nibs that I have, especially in the modern variety. The vintage ones definitely had figured out the flow issues, but working with an injection molded feed, modified as much as possible, a nib modified as much as possible, with a practiced hand. I probably spelled that butcherly. They can be a very enjoyable writer. My ink notepad, which I use, I have Tomoe River paper in it. So these are the three twinkly inks or sparkly inks that I got. And the colors are different between them, and the sparkles are different between them. Like I said, I'm impressed with Birmingham Pen Company's making sparkly inks, twinkle inks as they might refer to them as. And I think I found 3 pens that they work very well in. Yeah, I'm a happy camper. So we've come to the conclusion of another fountain pen review, and I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed making it. And I enjoy having a new pen, trying out a new nib, and a new ink. It makes my day. Hopefully it makes yours too. Hopefully you can share my enjoyment. I mean, I try to enjoy every pen for what it is, not try to make it what I think it should be or feel that I'm the pen god to determine what is a good or bad pen. I think any pen that writes is a good pen. Some may be more enjoyable than others, but that's a very subjective view. And I try to be as objective as possible because I want you to enjoy your pens, and that's the key thing. And I think almost every pen can be enjoyed. It has certain attributes, and hopefully you've got to see the 9019 in this stealth model. It may have a lot of aspects that might appeal to you. And I did swap out the nib because I have enough 9019s with your regular extra fine, and medium nib, so I needed something a little different. So with that, I hope this video finds everyone safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens as I enjoy mine, and having a great day. So thank you all for watching. We've reached the end, and we will say bye-bye-bye-bye.